All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching us across the states in Nigeria. We are a nation bound by freedom and unity, and our unity holds the fabric of our society, and together paving way for harmony in strength and diversity, I believe, is something we should never forget as we continue to journey through life. Again, I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener, your producer, your executive producer, your chief host. I just need to brag this afternoon. Kike Atanda-Owo. All right, guys, it's important for us to hear what On This Day in History segment asks for us today. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. I believe that on this Day in History segment today, this is one singer or songwriter that has made Africa proud and has made success, as an African, tale across the globe. And many people think that she's Nigerian from the popular hit song Ori Ori Yo Olajumoke Olajumoke. I know somebody is dancing on my studio floor today, but she's actually from Benin Republic, and her roots still connect with the Yoruba tribe in language and in recognition. She's truly the first woman to be listed among the 40 most powerful celebrities in Africa, and I just want to say kudos to her. Let her keep growing, let her keep impacting. And I love her collaboration with what's her name again? What's this name of this artist that were Yemi Alade? Thank you. They just whispered that into my ears. That is how people copy in school when they're writing exams. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I think it's important for us to hear what our sponsors ask for us. Let's listen to it, and I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with us. At the end of the 6-hour meeting between the federal government and labor leaders over the ongoing strike and new minimum wage, both parties have reached an agreement that gets Nigerians talking on social media. The unions want the government to increase the minimum wage from 30,000 naira to 494,000 naira for workers. Previous meetings between both parties ended in a deadlock as organized labor rejected the government's offer to increase the new minimum wage to 60,000 naira. And the strike, which is the fourth since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took office, has amplified an already severe cost of living crisis driven by high inflation. On the live show today, my Real Talk will cut across the complexities surrounding the negotiation for a new minimum wage, highlighting the various stakeholders involved, including the federal government, state governments, and of course the organized private sectors. We'll be examining the economic impact of the strike on essential services such as power, aviation, healthcare, education, as well as the broader implication for Nigerian economy and inflation rates. Again, I believe that it's important for me to play the profile of my guest today before we delve into the main conversation. Let's see his profile, and when I return, we will be listening to him. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, welcome to the show, Chief Babatunde Ruwase. It's always a pleasure to have you on Real Talk with Kike today. Many thanks again for creating time to lend your voice on this current situation that we found ourselves again. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm fine. Good afternoon.
So let's just dive straight to the topic at hand, because 60,000 minimum wage agreement signed by both federal government and the labor unions in the last few hours should start off our conversation. And the fact that, NLC and TUC have suspended strike after, disrupting the ground economy, so to speak. Do you think this is sustainable, or do you think this is a sustainable agreement in the long term, or a form of bargain to persuade workers off the streets from this strike action?
Now, to your question, unfortunately, what we've had played out in recent time within labor and government is politics. Because what labor is negotiating is not wage. It's not wage as a factor of production. It's rather social welfare, because of the fact that the politicians, they have seen that those in politics are making all the money, the remuneration is high, so labor decides to also play politics with them. Because when you look at wages is actually a factor of production, and it gets as much as it puts into production out of the value chain. So what we have now is not wage negotiation, but rather is social benefit negotiation. The labor is coming from the point where they feel if politicians could have so much, they also should have this much. And that is very, very unfortunate. And that's why there is this big gap within the government position and labor's position. Labor is negotiating welfare, social welfare, but government is sitting at the table thinking they are talking of wages. It's something that has to be addressed. Instead of labor to come and ask for a restructuring or a reform of the system where it's in politics that one makes most money, it's now asking for something that would also seemingly look like what the neighbor will get. And that's why we have this 650, and then they move from 250 to 495,000. But because it's not realistic. I mean, if you look at labor as a factor of production, it's unsustainable for business. Nobody can pay that sort of money. So, but then because in politics too, they've not been very fair to the system. We have a situation where people are given a vehicle worth 160 million. The government or the other side of the divide does not even have the confidence of saying, gentlemen, this is impossible. They are talking of social welfare. Government is thinking of wages. I mean, what they are discussing now, in short, is not wages as remuneration for contribution to production.
All right, I hear you, sir, and I like the fact that you use the word social benefits, social welfare, because when you go through the pattern at which Labour, TLC, TUC, came about the figure in terms of a household, a family of 5 or a family of 6, I will agree with you that is becoming like a social welfare arrangement. However, I want to ask you a direct question. Is Nigeria rich enough to pay this amount of money or not? If yes, why is it appropriation of funds a problem? Because, again, if no, I would say that Nigerians want to know why senators are being paid handsomely at the detriment of civil servants. I know that you've said in your earlier submission that, there's nobody that will be able to pay that money. But let's tailor it down to government, because again, listening to Minister of State for Labour and Employment yesterday, that's Honorable Nkuruka, that said 494,000 minimum wage that the NLC is asking for, it's outrightly impossible. The civilians, or would I say, the civilians, and the civil servants of this country, we want to ask the government, why is it that too much? If the government can wake up one day and increase removal of subsidy, increase electricity tariffs, and so many other things, why would they say that the figure is too much for them to be able to pay? What's your response to this?
Well, every sane person knows that it's a big joke. That sort of figure will not fly in business world. And like I said, what labor should be asking for is probably a reform of the system that makes politics the most lucrative endeavor in our system is what we need to look at. I mean, the system that makes, because you are a member of a National Assembly, you can be given a car of 160 million. It's unsustainable. No system can support this. Government removed subsidy, but then because of the cost of living, because of the cost of governance in our system, nobody is feeling the effect except those in government. It's not possible for anybody, any business person, to pay that sort of money. And where you want to do it, then there will be a lot of people that will be out of job. I mean, if you have to pay so much for labor, then there will be a lot of people out of job. But it's even unsustainable. You cannot, I mean, minimum wage, you can't move from 30,000 to 495,000, no matter whatever magic anybody wants to do. And if done, it's unsustainable. What labor is saying, in other words, is because those in politics or in government are making so much money, they also want to have their own cut of the part of the cake, of the national cake. But then what about, it's not everybody that is in the system. It's not everybody that is working for government. It's not even everybody that is within this, what we call the organized labor force. It's not everybody. It's just a small fraction of people within the system. And for us to now, if they get it, what about the others? It's not sustainable. No sane person will think of it. But like I said, it's politics that has taken over everything. Politics actually have done damage to all our institutions. Politics have destroyed our educational system. Politics in religion has destroyed religion. Politics has taken over everything in our system. And that's why I said both the government and the labor that are sitting around the table are just doing politics. But because they are guilty as charged, those in government who have been given 160 million vehicles, which only a few very young people were informed, returned, they don't have the moral courage to tell labor, hey, look here, you cannot get this amount of money. This is what we can pay you. But it's unthinkable. You can't move from 30 to 400 and something. Even when this 30 we are talking of, there are some states where they say their minimum wage is even below this 30,000. And there are places where they are even owing. And like I said, if labor is regarded as a factor of production, which you have capital, I mean, you have land, you have capital, you have entrepreneurship, every person contributing to this system has to be remunerated. And labor is just one of those who will be there. And in any case, because labor is personal, you can do without labor at some stage. If labor is so expensive, you look for labor elsewhere. If labor is so expensive, you can start using robots to do some of those things that robots could do. So it's unrealistic. It is, we shouldn't be talking about it. It's all politics within government and labor. That's the way to put it. And until when they actually come to reasoning, labor could ask for reduction in cost of governance. They could ask for reduction in whatever these people who are in government are getting. They could ask for reduction in money that goes into politics, because politics is the most lucrative business anybody could do. I'm telling you, if this 160 million that they have given, vehicles that they have given to even the legislators, if they gave them 160 million, I don't think any of them would have spent that money on a vehicle. But because government decided to give them 160 million. I'm sure the house most of them are living in is not worth that amount. 160 million is a lot of money. Labour saw that, and Labour thinks they want to play politics too, and they are talking of social benefits. What the man that engages you to work for him will not ask how many wives you have, how many children you have, what sort of house you have. The skill, whatever you are bringing onto the table, is what is important in production. Because at the end of the day, you are producing something that you are going to sell. You won't produce something at exorbitant price and make a loss as an entrepreneur. So what they are doing is just politics, and it's very unfortunate. And the earlier they get to know it, and the earlier the neighbor tells government what they are advocating for, that politics, I don't know how we are going to get out of this, unfortunately, because we all know that politics, I mean, somebody, if you get into political position today, you are in money. And in any case, even the entry point is very expensive. An ordinary person cannot, if you don't have money or you have a godfather, you cannot go into politics in Nigeria. Right, you cannot do politics. So the entry fee is so...
Apologies, I have to interrupt your line of thought. I hear you, sir, and I agree that it's unrealistic. But the question still remains, what amount to be sufficient enough as the minimum for the average Nigerian out there? Because quite a number of people would like to know, do we want to blame the economic team and advisor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Do they not see this coming? I know that during election, I heard how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, oh, don't worry, all the minimum wage will be increased. It was easy for the subsidy to be taken off. Why is it not easy to replace a corresponding wage that meets the inflation as a result of the subsidy removal? I feel that there must be a balance here, and that is the reason why you've seen that Labour people have come out to strike, to demand for what is more beneficial to them. What's your take thus far with this submission?
Well, like I said, apart from civil service, as an entrepreneur, you won't set up a business and make a loss. If labor is too expensive for you, you look for an alternative. Labor is supposed to be, the remuneration for labor is wages. The wage that you get is determined by the amount of the value of what you bring into the value chain of production. Now that the government have removed subsidy, what we should be asking for probably is social services that are out there. People should be looking at how do you reduce cost of commuting, that is public transport. How could you afford to give people good medical care if you have health problems? How do you subsidize education? These are things that government can do. But if we are looking at a situation where, because things are expensive, my salary or my salary should be a factor of what it costs, the inflation is out there. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. It's only in government that it could work, maybe because it's social service. But then when it gets to some point, government will now reduce the number of staff that they have to whatever the budget can carry, which government should help in ameliorating this problem that we have by providing subsidized social services, vehicles that can move people around, health care that is affordable, heavily subsidized, like drugs now are very expensive. Government could do something about whatever you import. Maybe they give you some rebate, maybe the things that will subsidize, that will be of general benefit to all. Education, government, now they're doing a loan, student loan. But then it should go beyond loan. Government should provide exercise books, read all the materials that you need in school, make it cheap for people to go to school. Government could start looking at affordable accommodation. Government to do things, social services generally. That's the only way government could help tackle the problem of inflation. You don't tackle inflation by, as one of the determinants of what you pay somebody may not necessarily be inflation, is really determined. Yes, you can talk of inflation, but what you are bringing to the table what labor is bringing to the table will determine what they should take out of the production value chain, because it's a factor of production.
Thanks for your elaborate submission, right? And I agree with you on benefits that is general to all. We'll go on a quick break, and when I return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me, I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, glad to know you're still right there with us. In case you just joined today's show, today's conversation is about the labor strike and the new minimum wage, and of course the federal government and the labor unions that have agreed overnight to increase the minimum wage to 60,000 naira after the first day of strike by the labor unions. And of course the strike have been suspended for a week. So this strike, which is the fourth since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took office, and has worsened an already severe cost of living crisis driven by high inflation. And I've been having real talk around these issues with the past president of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Chief Babatunde Ruwase. He said, okay, he said, Mr. Babatunde, and he has been giving us insights and comments on the ongoing situation. And I want to say many thanks for all your submission thus far. And of course, I think it's important for me to use this opportunity to open our phone lines. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 0811 888 113. It will be showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live from Facebook, and yes, on Facebook, both on Real Talk with Kike and of course on Silverbird platform. Sir, many thanks for all your submission thus far. I want to quickly bring you to speed, because before coming to the studio, I stumbled on an update from San Femi Falana that said that the National Minimum Wage Act 2019 has expired, and this is 2024. Shouldn't the legislative arm of government be the one proposing a dialogue and a deliberation with the labor, or will I say with the labor unions, before we got to this point about a new minimum wage act?
We should be very clear about the work of the legislator. Their primary responsibility is to make laws. So unless a bill is brought before the assembly, they have no business in all this. The labor employers are the federal government and organized private labor. And that's where they should start from. So if there is any need to tinker or do anything about the law, then the government should have taken it there. Interested party will take it there. But it's not primarily the responsibility of the legislators to start thinking of changing a particular law. That's what of the executive or interested party outside there.
Okay, I understand that, but you know, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu reforms have contributed to a rise in inflation, worsening the cost of living crisis. In a light of President Tinubu's reforms, what additional measures are being considered to alleviate the cost of living crisis for average Nigerian from your own point of view as an economist?
Well, what the present administration did when they came in was something that was inevitable. You have a very bad economy, and something has to be done. And it was right that they have done what they have done. But then probably there should have been other measures that would have ameliorated or make it easy for people to get around. Just like I mentioned, all these social benefits. Increasing wages on its own would spur off inflation. I was a young boy in this country when we had the Udoji, and we knew what damage it did to us, and we had never recovered from it because there was a lot of money in the hands of people. Things became so expensive, and so that's why the best thing to do is to actually address all these social benefits, to make life easy for people, to make life even easy for entrepreneurs, people who have businesses, so that people can set up businesses, they can create employment, they can do the economy would grow. But if we increase salary today, it will also ignite its own inflationary trend. There is no doubt about it. And what this administration did, they don't have a choice. At that time that they came in, they just have to do it. Removing oil subsidy, it was becoming a lot of money was being diverted, used to subsidize fuel, which is depriving, and then we are also not earning as much as we used to earn as a nation. So what do? You have to look for somewhere to get this money. Unfortunately, the savings or whatever came to federal government and the various tier of government have not been properly used to address all the challenges that arose as a result of this removal of subsidy. And I think that's where the problem is.
All right. Many thanks for that. You know, I must ask you this as a professional, a chartered accountant and an authority in economics. Do you agree to the school of thought that if inflation, which grew to as high as 84%, can be tamed to below 10%, because the newly agreed 60,000 naira minimum wage may satisfy Nigerians' purchasing power? What's your take on this? Secondly is the fact that, because of time, I'm trying to manage time now, is the fact that shutting down the nation's power grid, was it right under the law, shutting down the two international airports? Nnamdi Azikiwe's in Abuja was outrightly a daring and confrontational action, if you ask me. In situations like this could cripple the economy further. So what can be a welcome approach to resolving these issues? Because I'm of the opinion that I will not want us to just keep, you know, throwing the government under the bus. We must provide solutions to the government in power today. What is the way forward? How do we resolve this culture of going on strike in the last 1 year of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration?
I think, well, clearly shutting down the airport, making life difficult for every other person is illegal, and it's also immoral anyway, because your right stops where mine begins. If I cannot go out there, you cannot force me to join. It's illegal. You cannot force me to join a protest. You cannot force me not to be able to carry out my daily assignment. And you can see from the letter that the Attorney General wrote, he made it very clear. Shutting down the national grid and all that is illegal. In the past, we have had some people from old NEPA in those days that were sentenced, that were sent to jail for doing this sort of a thing. It's illegal. But we've had that one. It shouldn't happen. The only thing that we could have is good governance and responsible leadership. The sort of ways that those who are in power are carrying around, going about as if there is no problem, as if the money is there, and asking people to tighten their belt is unfair too. So if we are going to ask, we should ask for right and responsible governance from those in politics. Although it's also difficult to ask for that, because when you look at the entry into political arena in Nigeria, is very, very expensive. People have to spend a lot of money to become a successful politician. And what do? When they get there, they also have to recoup money they have spent. So we need to actually sit back as a people and ask ourselves, what do we want? And impress it on. These people are representative. We should be able to ask them, tell them what we want, and ask for good governance. But it's a long, long way off, because we have gone down the road so low. So, but striking today, asking for increase in pay will not solve the problem. Asking for making unreasonable, unrealistic demand from as a factor of production, which is labor, would also not the way to go. We can ask government to be responsible. We can ask government to take care of basic needs of the ordinary person, we're talking of security, we are talking of social benefit, we are talking of education, we are talking of medical services. This government should put a lot of money on. And then, of course, we should reduce cost of governance, which makes it's out of this world. And above all, corruption. How do we fight corruption? Because at the heart of all this is the almighty chronic corruption that we have within the system. That is the only way out.
Many thanks for that elaborate submission. I want to consider your last submission as recommendation going forward for the government and of course for the labor union and the federal government in totality, for all the citizens and for us to have general benefit for all. And I want to say thank you so much for all your submission thus far, and may God continue to give you longevity to continue to lend your voice on issues that affect us all. Before I draw the curtains of the show, I want to move to the last segment of the show. This is where we call trending stories. These are stories that bind us together, sir, as Nigerians, as Africans. And the trending story I'm going to be taking today is that of the man who was alleged to have killed two best friends who have been killed by vigilantes. And before I come to you, sir, because this is where I have an opinion as a host, as an executive producer, as a producer, name it, as a scriptwriter, name it, because this is utterly depressing. There are so many news that can give depression in our country, if not because the kind of work that I do as a journalist and of course as the chief principal holding in my corporate office that has to do with, doing research work online. I just feel that social media sometimes, honestly, going by what is going on social media and news outlet production these days, one may subconsciously develop mental breakdown. That is the honest truth. That's the reason why most times when I wake up in the morning, I avoid anything that has to do with social media, especially over the weekend. So you begin to wonder and imagine how people can be this wicked and what they can do for money. May our children not be lost in the hands of killers. And I pray that our children too will have contentment spirits. Now, my hairstylist Kazim asked before coming into the studio that are we sure this man was killed by vigilantes, or is it just another ploy to make him escape justice? We have seen multiple stories like this in our country, and according to social media and investigation reports, the man in question, Andrew Amechi, he was suspected of kidnapping two friends, that is Celine and Afiba, I hope I'm pronouncing their names properly, was reportedly killed by vigilantes while being transported to Abuja. And the activists, reported that Ochewuku was trying to escape, and their whereabouts of the two friends remain unknown despite being found in front of the house of the alleged organ harvester. I just feel that from what Ochewuku was previously accused of being part of an organ harvesting syndicate, now this is where we need to be careful. Girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, especially the youths going about for quick riches and shortcut scheme to wealth, this is the end to their happiness. This is what happens to them. The society now is so bad that these days that a single person can get away with years of atrocity of this kind. I'm quite sure that he has been doing this for years. Looking at the video, it was played earlier, and using the social media glitters to lure these victims, to lure these young girls who do not have contentment spirits, who do not understand consistency, who want to wear bone straight hair and carry Louis Vuitton bag without not putting in the hard work. Our imagination cannot just catch the number of people that he has killed before now. So I want to use this medium, I don't know how to put this, because I want to believe that that the organ harvesting is not just a single person's business. It's just one wicked soul out of this syndicate. Because I was trying to do the math and at the same time trying to withdraw myself from the thoughts that was crossing my mind, to do the public, some fairness and justice for the security and intelligence agency to catch up with these syndicate members and bring them to justice. What a life. Parents, I hope we are listening. I hope that we would raise our children in the way that they would have contentment spirit. That is the only word coming to mind right now. A word is enough for the wise. Let's guard our children. No, I'm not pointing fingers at them now because it's a collective effort. Let's guard our children properly. Let's give them the best of guidance in terms of good home training, because all that is happening right now is highly disturbing. I'm trying to imagine what the parent of these children will be going through right now. Probably they will send them to school, they rented an apartment for them, and thinking that they will be in school, thinking that they will be facing their studies, thinking that, but even the young girls of today want to date somebody who is as old as their father, somebody who is old to birth them, all in the name of, little change. What is wrong with us? I don't understand. I'm asking myself, this was not the kind of environment I grew up in. And the world is fast becoming so wicked, and people have lost their conscience. Honestly, this is where I just have to draw my thoughts right now, because, it's highly disturbing. It's highly disturbing. Sometimes I wish I can stay off social media because it could affect your mood. I understand that my guest, I've lost the connection to my guest. This is where I draw the curtains of the show. I just want to say many thanks to my resourceful guest, Mr. Babatunde Ruwase, for coming on the show today to lend his voice on issues that affect us as Nigerians. And we are hoping that, this will not continue to be a culture with Labour, with TUC, and of course with NLC and the federal government. I hope that this will be a solution to the fights that have been ongoing for a while. So come your way next week, or on Thursday rather, try and catch me up on Inspiration FM at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Our Drive Time Talk Show is still Real Talk with Kike on Inspiration FM. Catch you on Thursday on the same platform. Bye now.